Hello, you. So, as I record this, we are in that interregnum between Christmas and New Year. The period where no one really knows what day it is or what you're supposed to be doing, when all the normal rhythms of life are suspended, when we are still slightly stuffed from festive meals and, if we're lucky, still slightly high on all the happy chemicals that result from spending time with loved ones and receiving lovely, thoughtful presents. P.S. I love presents. I should definitely have all manner of lovely presents all the time. That was a very unsubtle hint, my love. I'm sure you'll catch it. So yeah, the interregnum. It's also a time for reflection, for considering what has happened in the year just gone, and of course, what will happen in the year to come. Let's first take a little look at the backward glance, the introspection that is personal reflection, the kind of reflection that sages tell us is important to us as conscious beings filled with thoughts and emotions and past echoes of trauma and other stuff we need to organise. Stuff we need to make sense of, to come to terms with. The stuff we need to make space for and to understand all we have done. And also those things that have happened to us and then move on. Since we can't go back in time to change any of it, we need to accept it and to cope and to move forward. Which, when you think about it, is therapy in a nutshell. But it's also more than that. It's the examined life, which we are allegedly told by philosophical greats such as Socrates to engage in, since according to him, the unexamined life is not worth living. And while Socrates may have come to a mildly unpleasant end, there is still, I believe, some merit to his suggestion. Certainly, I find people who never engage in examination of the self, never engage in introspection, in working out who they are and why they do what they do, are often thoughtless, heartless, narcissistic and generally all-round unpleasant to be with. So if you aspire to be none of those things, you might want to take a moment to gaze, for a short time only, at your navel and work out, who are you? What makes you tick? Introspection or reflection is also the main fodder of the journal, the memoir, and even that fascinating little round-robin letter that people you haven't seen in ages send out to catch you up on all their doings for the year. The kind of thing I keep meaning to emulate, but so far have never managed. It's the cataloguing and the counting and the taking stock, the what did I do, how did I measure up, what did the last little parcel of my lifetime amount to, what went well. What did I learn? A few years ago, in the hazy sameness that is retirement, and being quite literally stuck in the house, I started counting the things that had happened. The books I'd read, the films I'd watched, the things I'd created and the places I'd been. It gave me a starting point for reflection, a way to say, it might have felt as if nothing happened, but that's not true. Lots happened, and each of these things has a meaning and a result and an impact on who you are and how you think and how you approach the next thing. And I found that process helpful. I was making lists, and those lists told me things about myself I hadn't paid attention to. About what I enjoyed, what I returned to, what I spent my time on, and basically how much I had done. Once you start taking note of things, you can see how it all mounts up. You become more conscious of what you are doing, and the time that was streaming past in the blink of an eye can kind of slow down, and you can savour it more and be in the moment. And we notice things and people and events more at the time, and we fix them more carefully in our memory, and then we can use them to build upon as scaffolding for what comes next. Because that's the other part, the looking forward, the what next, the resolutions and goals for the coming year. New Year's resolutions are a big thing. They are really popular, with some estimates suggesting that up to 96% of people make at least one resolution for the new year. In other words, almost everyone takes the apparent new start that a new year signals and at least tries to leverage that in order to make a positive, beneficial change in their lives. Which all sounds very positive, no? Now, unfortunately, approximately half of those resolutions will have failed before the end of January, and only 9 or 10% of them will be kept for the entire year. Which sounds pretty bad, no? All that ambition and positivity, achieving nothing much. So is it even worth it? Well, you know me, and you probably know what I'm going to say. Of course it's worth it. If you make a change that only lasts a month, that's still a change that you would not have experienced otherwise. Whether it lasts a day, a month, a year, a lifetime, you will have learned something. You will have learned something about the goals you set, about yourself, about your ability to stick with things, whether certain things actually suit you at all. You will have learned something, and it's all good. That said, if you are going to make a resolution, if you want to change something about yourself, or do something new, or stop doing something unhelpful, then there are steps you can take to give yourself a better chance of success. Firstly, work out precisely what you want to change and why. The why is really important. If you are attempting something simply because somebody else wants it for some reason, or you think that you ought to do it, then your motivation is going to be pretty low. You can't really borrow other people's motivation. You have to find your own. So take a moment to sit and think before you commit to any goal. Work out what you think this is going to bring you. What's the benefit to you, to your life, to your experience, to your capabilities? What is your why? And once you've worked out your why, then you can set about setting smart goals. Yeah, I know it's old-fashioned and corny to talk about smart goals. You know, the goals that are specific and measurable and achievable and relevant and time-bound. I know that that's one of those things they bang on about in business lectures and corporate meetings. But I have to say there's a reason those acronyms caught on. It's because they work, or at least they work better than poorly formulated goals and plans. So, how does that fit in with personal goal setting and New Year's resolutions? I'm very glad you asked. If you've got a thing in mind, be specific. In order to move towards a particular goal, you have to have a destination in mind. You can't program a sat-nav without a destination, and you can't program your mind to move forward to where you want to be unless you're telling it where it's going. By way of example, I'm going to lose weight this year is a nebulous concept that could mean anything from losing a couple of grams to losing half your body weight, and anything and everything in between. You have no idea what you're aiming for, and so you have no idea what steps are necessary to get you there. But I'm going to lose 2 stone, or I'm going to lose 30 pounds. That's knowable and specific, and the knowable has at least some chance of becoming the doable. So yeah, as far as you can, be specific. Measurable. Make it something you can measure, or count, or fundamentally know how far you've come, how far you have to go, and when you are finished, if it's something that actually has a finish line. There's an old saying that what gets measured gets done. And the corollary to that is, if it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get done. So put some conditions on it. Measure it. And no matter how far you take it, you will be able to turn around and see how far you've come. And if it wasn't nothing, then it was something. And something is always good. Yeah. Work out how to measure it. Aiming for the achievable. Well, aiming for the impossible is a total waste of time. I mean, I say that, and I have to admit that there is nothing wrong with audacious goals. If you are shooting for the stars, even if you miss, you might reach the moon. And you probably won't shoot yourself in the foot. On the other hand, and to me this is interesting, some people say you should pick the smallest possible goal, the least audacious, something you can easily do, and then once you've achieved it, simply iterate. Setting out the smallest possible steps and taking the almost inevitable win to boost you and your confidence in your ability. Creating an infrastructure of tiny, automatic, atomic habits and wins that build up to an eventual goal. But I suppose that's a topic for an entire video on its own. So from here, I'll just say, whether you prefer to go big or go small, it's worth remembering that aside from certain obvious physical or environmental constraints, whatever one human can or has done, another human can do too. And so can you. Almost everything's achievable. Keep it relevant. Don't do things that won't give you what you want, or won't move you along the path of where you want to be. And if we were talking purely about business or work aims, this would stop right there. But in general life, I think there's a corollary to this, and the corollary is, unless you enjoy it. If something brings you pleasure, even if it has no relevance whatsoever to anything other than that enjoyment, who gives a damn? Do it anyway. Life is too short not to. You could have a personal resolution to try every different cheese in your local shop, or to read every Terry Pratchett book, or learn all the words to Bohemian Rhapsody. As long as you want to do it and you enjoy it, go for it. Fun resolutions are very definitely a thing. And the last concept is that things should be time-bound. This is yet another one of those constraints that urges you not to be airy-fairy, not to be vague, since vagueness is the enemy of achievement. Whatever you choose to do or pursue, stick a time limit or a duration or a deadline on it. Don't say, I'm going to lose a bit of weight this year. Say, I'm going to lose 2 pounds this month. Don't say, I'm going to write a book sometime. Say, I'll have written 50,000 words by the middle of the year. A timescale lets you know the size of the steps you need to take. And a deadline is one of those things that pushes the vast majority of us into at least a modicum of urgency. Vague time is no time at all. And I don't know about you, but if I don't put a deadline on something, it almost certainly isn't happening. So yeah, SMART objectives. I find it a useful framework. Maybe you will too. And after all that, if you do make a resolution or two and you succeed, more power to your elbow. Well done. If you make a resolution and you only manage it for a little bit, still, well done you. And if you don't make any resolutions at all, that's also fine. You do you. Personally, I love the new start. I love to make a deliberate attempt at learning something new, becoming something different, sampling as much of the spice and variety of life as I can. But it's not just New Year. There are new beginnings and places to start everywhere. Yes, there's one every year. There's also one every month, and one every week, and one every day. Any time you really want to is the time for a new beginning. And as for me, as we go into 2025, I think this year I'll try and learn to draw. I'm aiming to complete the contents of a couple of course books I've got. I'll be working in pencil, and I'll be aiming to do something like 350 drawings over the course of the year. So maybe you should come back in another year to see how well I did. I will almost certainly not be as good as I would like to be, and I probably won't have done as many drawings as I want to have done. But I will definitely have done more and improved more than if I hadn't made the resolution in the first place. And with luck, I'll feel good about that. Have a wonderful new year. Till next time.